You have a minute. What are you building?
70% of the pilot patients purchased the product were women.
You think you're going to nail that 4 seconds a slide?
No.
How do I ask this question politely?
I don't have 1 minute to pitch.
Well, the minute pitch is a entirely different animal.
Yeah.
We've grown 20% month on month.
Oh yeah, that sounds like a huge problem. And if you do have a way to solve that, I'm very interested because you've demonstrated the huge problem exists and is something I can touch and feel. Welcome to episode 35 of The Feedback Loop. Every week, startup founders get up on stage and give the 1-minute pitch for their company and their vision of the future. And then they get 10 minutes of unfiltered feedback and Q&A from 2 check-writing startup investors, all aimed at helping them move their narrative and storytelling to the next level. I'm your host, Sherveen, and I'm the founder and CEO of venture-backed free agency. We provide Hollywood-style representation for tech talent. I'm also an occasional angel investor, and joining me as my guest co-host for this episode is Mike Ma, founder and managing partner at Sidecut Ventures. Hope you enjoy the show. So Mike, before we bring a founder on stage and get all this going, you are prolific right now. I feel like if people in the crowd haven't heard of you, they're not opening their LinkedIn app. Who are you? What do you do? And then the same thing I'm going to tell the founders, hold it about.
I'm sorry.
Right around, perfect.
I will get it right for the 5th time. Hi, everyone. Pleasure to be here. Thank you, Sherveen, for doing this. I'm Mike Ma. I am the managing partner and founder of Sidecut Ventures. We are a pre-seed venture for a pre-seed VC firm. And our thesis is coachable superheroes, which to unpack that term, coachable refers to how we deploy capital. A little different than other VCs. Most VCs give you money first and then it's like, hey, we'll give you advice. We flip it. You want a check from us? We work together for 30 days and we want to see if, or as my team, I have 3 teens. So as my teens say, like, we want to watch you cook. We want to cook with you. Watch them cook. And that's our thesis. And that's the best way to build goodwill and also to underwrite pre-seed stage founders. The superhero part refers to the sectors we invest in. The 3 sectors we look at most exclusively or most arduously is economic mobility, healthcare access, and sort of forgotten corners of the edtech ecosystem.
You've become a fan favorite, so I know that the crowd's excited to hear your feedback. YouTube's excited to hear your feedback in a week when we release the episode. So with that, Mike, are you ready?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. It's time for the feedback loop. And with a round of applause from everybody in this room, founder number 1. What's your name?
I'm Samarth.
Samarth.
Yeah, my first time here. Love the production so far. And
thank you.
Really good.
Well, it's for you. So you're going to have a minute to pitch and tell us about what you're building. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
You have a minute. What are you building?
So, hi, I'm Samarth. I'm the co-founder at Waxwing, and we are an AI-powered marketing ops platform. So we help users ideate, plan, and execute growth and marketing campaigns end to end. We can do that because we leverage structured information, business information across like products, audiences, channels, and then basically help our users decide which avenues are the best for them to get the most return on their growth campaigns, and then also help plan them, customize them for their business, and then also, and we're building this right now, is have AI agents autonomously execute them on their behalf as well. We launched in late May of this year, and the launch went pretty well. We launched in Product Hunt. We were voted Product of the Day, Product of the Week, and we were the top AI Product of the Month and the top Marketing Product of the Month. And we had some notable clients, some enterprise clients, and we're taking it from there.
That's about a minute. Great job.
Thank you.
Martech.
Yeah, you are the marketing man on stage.
Yeah, recovering CMO. Tell me more about. Recovery.
Yeah.
How does this work? Is it just ingesting a bunch of data, doing paid social, running those campaigns? Walk me. Knowing that I'm a CMO and having done this, I don't need the secret sauce, and I don't think you should divulge that.
Sure.
How does it work, and how does it replicate some of the work that channel planners, acquisition, growth hackers do today?
Sure. So full disclaimer, I'm the technical co-founder. My co-founder Tarun is the growth marketing industry veteran. So I'll answer this from the technical point of view a little bit too, but I'll tell you exactly how do we get about it. So you would come into the platform, you tell us hey, this is my business URL. That's all you give us, and then we would crawl your business URL. Dive deep into who your target audience is, where are they, what are the demographics, who your competitors are, what are their top products, how do they compare to you, what are some of the channels that you can reach out, like inbound marketing, outbound, social media, SEO, you name it, right? Performance marketing, whatever. And then we would basically go through each of the product, each of the audience segments. We decide what segments are good for you to target, global, international, global, local, young professionals, like college graduates, students, etc., and how and what marketing avenues.
The
are
only
the best
data
to reach
source
them.
you're using is just the URL.
Just the URL.
You're not looking at any conversion data.
So we are integrated with third-party platforms like SEMrush and Ahrefs to get all the information we can get about that business, especially external traffic, where the traffic is coming from, what the demographics of the user traffic, etc., the household income.
But you're not in my CRM and my Stripe.
Not there yet. So eventually, when we do build these autonomous AI agents, they will take your username and platform and start the growth process by themselves directly on them as well. But yeah.
Let me do 2 questions. I'll turn over to
Sure.
One, tell me a little about your clients, and then related, how do you know it's working?
Okay. So 2 things there. So our favorite audience, our favorite target customer are enterprises. But for enterprises, you do need the contract is longer to close, and they need a lot more feature parity. So at the moment, we opened it up to SMBs specifically and prosumers. So at the moment, the prosumers that we had from Product Hunt were very early adopters, and it was super wide. The diversity in the audience in general. We had someone who runs her own dentistry office, someone who's a children's book author, a famous one, and launching her own new book and want to do marketing for that book. We had a few construction and hospitality business owners in Canada as well, using our platform. And now we're trying to transition to enterprise. So we just got a contract from a few months ago from Honasa, which is an IPO brand, which they're using our platform for their marketing team. And so we had to build out a lot of project management features into the product as well now, because it's a team using it instead of initially we were targeting SMBs and consumers.
I think I have a lot of feedback that has to actually relate to, I don't think you're answering the questions.
Sorry, yeah.
Let me give you a sense of what it means when someone, for example, asks you what clients do you have, or are you interested in, or do you most favor? It's an invitation to tell a different story.
Yes.
Okay. You answered very literally of there's a dentistry that we want to be an enterprise. What the invitation is what use cases
do we
and
solve?
What models of customer are good for you.
Perfect.
And it allows you to say something and you can still use some of the same examples, but we're fantastic for the local dentist who doesn't have the time and is a solo operator, but has a landing page and she wants to convert leads. Yes. We're fantastic and one of the reasons, by the way, this is a helpful way to answer, you'd actually probably slightly confuse your answer a bit too, because I think you'd say something about enterprise. Because I'm currently confused as to why you're relevant to a local dentist and to an enterprise, and why you kind of favor both audiences. So somewhat in your answer, you'd either find clarity because it forced you to figure out why you're telling both of those stories, or I'd ask my next question of why do both of those stories work for you?
Okay.
So why do both of those stories work for you?
That's a great feedback. The reason for that is because the product, the way it's built, it can offer collateral and assets and content and trends and everything for regardless of the product per se. So you'd come in and be like, hey, this is my new book. Help me prepare the launch. So they'd be like, hey, you can target these specific newsletters. You can reach out to these top voices in IT in this space. You can and this is the content that you can reach out to your previous customers with this email, and it'll give you A/B test lines for your subject, your email subjects. It'll basically give you content to post on social media.
That I then have to action on, so it's giving me a bunch of content.
It's giving you a bunch of content, but it's always interactive. You can ask it to change it. It'll give you images to post. So we initially started it. Chatbot is a part of it, but it's more of a project management tool as well. So hey, social media campaign.
None of the things that it's doing, I can action on from the platform itself.
You can. So it'll give you something. So one of the tasks could be, give me a social media calendar for this week, right? I'll give you Reddit post to make for this week.
But you're not integrated with a CRM, an ESP.
Not yet. But at the same time, you can just copy and paste it. And
do you see where I might struggle with this a little bit? So look, I think one of the things. this is like concept feedback and pitch feedback. You're telling me essentially that there's a version of ChatGPT that you're building that's a little more specific, because it's not actionable or integrated. Essentially, what it is at its maximum is it's giving me a bunch of things I have to then go bring to other platforms and tools. Now, I'm not saying that can't be a product or a successful product, or it can't be on the roadmap that you're then going to integrate, et cetera, but then it has to be part of your pitch, right? It's like, hey, where we're beginning is we're starting as a chatbot. We're starting as a chatbot for these reasons. We're really great at understanding a landing page. We've figured out our secret sauce is we know how to embed a landing page and make it AI readable in a way that others don't. And when we turn it into embeddings and you can rag on it, essentially what we're doing is we're saying, hey, you have existing assets that we could use to tell you what marketing campaigns to run. They all exist on your landing page. So if you have a landing page, we can work for you. Okay, great. We can work for you then means once you're chatting with us, we're going to have your proprietary data. We're going to have all the understanding of your business, blah, 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 blah. And next, what we plan to do is build this integration and that integration so you don't need to leave our platform.
Exactly.
But you have to tell that story. Because currently, as Mike was going, I was like, I still don't know what this is compared to anything else.
There's a case in a world in pitching where I don't care. Do you know how that world looks? Just tell me, like, look, we have revenue. It looks like this. Our customers look like this. And it was like, okay, well, like, got me. I'm in, right? So a couple things I want to pull out on both some things about being a technical founder, pitching business. One, if you can pitch kudos for you for pitching. Second, if you can actually pitch the business, wow. Like you have like blown me away for a couple different reasons. Like one of the things the questions I ask go through my deal framework. They do. Every VC you talk to, when they're asking you questions, they're going through their deal framework. So you got to like decode what they're looking for. And for me, like, I'll send you my deal framework. It's out there on the internet. So
would love to.
Team. If I have a technical founder that's pitching the business and knows it in and out, man, that's a good team.
Can I challenge both of you though? Why are you a technical co-founder on stage? Your marketing co-founder should be up there.
Oh, he's actually visiting Singapore right now for a different.
That was the only answer that wouldn't have made me give more feedback.
Like, he's like talking to other. You just always say he's talking to a customer, and it doesn't matter. Like, good, you're right.
Then it's great that you're getting the practice. I do think I would prefer the subject matter expert, but to Mike's overall point, when the technical co-founder can be in the room and actually talk about some of the stuff, I've been giving you feedback on, it changes the game from an understanding of, oh, this team isn't the nerd and the computer nerd. It's like the subject matter nerd and the computer. It's like two people who are having an ongoing business conversation, who understand the product, who can talk to a customer. Such a great thing.
Second, numbers. Do you have a pitch deck?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a pitch deck? Is there a pitch deck with an X and Y axis somewhere? And does it have a big slope in it?
Yes, it does.
Can you give me a 5-second, what does that slide say?
So we've grown 20% month on month on our MRR. And
nope.
Okay.
I have no baseline.
Okay, so we at
20%
the moment
on one user is not that much.
Fair.
In fact, it's impossible.
At the moment we have 40 paying customers and over 200 daily active users, because when we launched, we did a freemium launch. So a lot of our initial customers are still on the freemium plan per se. But we're trying to convert them and monetize them. And we've recently raised our pricing from $20, which was the MVP when we launched it, to $150, because we added a lot of features that integrate very well.
What is the net revenue impact?
So the net revenue impact at the moment, we're making 1,800 MRR in terms of the recurring revenue. But we also, we also have a DF5, like we do it for you plan. So where if you like a campaign, you can also pay us to do the campaign. Then we hire third party, because we have a lot of industry contracts as well for like marketing. Then we can reach out to them and like help it done on the behalf.
So I don't want you to change how you pitch. You are who you are. When I ask you a question, I love that about technical founders. Like, you answer earnestly. This is what the product does. It does. Give me a little bit.
Sure.
We built this product. His agent's like, and you can make it an aside. It's 1,800 MRR growing 30% month over month. So back to this message, right? Let me in a little bit so I can contextualize it, and you give me license to listen to the rest of it. And I don't want you to somehow turn into like hardcore robot, like that's like ex McKinsey. Like that's just not. You just have to meet me a little bit in the middle. And I try to meet you a little bit in the middle about talking about the product. That's my overall pitch for any founder that's pitching, regardless. I told you I'm a CMO. How did you change that, saying, oh, he's a CMO?
I could go more technical in the marketing direction.
So tell me about the results. Right?
So for the sake of time, I'm going to give you my piece of feedback and then we'll have to wrap. I also want you to respect who you are, but change your pitch. A technical co-founder can be really dangerous in describing the technical and product innovations that happen over time on a long enough roadmap. So you might say, again, today we're a chatbot. And we're a chatbot because I've built a way with my co-founder subject matter help to ingest a landing page and understand it for the purposes of building marketing material better than anybody else. So we embed a website, we understand a website, we turn it to structured data, we rag on it better than anybody else. That's today, day one. The day 1000 version of this is as a technical co-founder, what I'm building is a model that understands generalized marketing activity. I'm making this part up because I don't know your future roadmap.
You're in the right track,
A generalized marketing model that's going to be very good at understanding across a generalized customer base. Hey, here are the generic sets of activities and here are the action items and here's how we can turn that into project management for you so that if you're a team that doesn't have 20 marketers working on email, 15 marketers working on paid, 10 working on organic. Instead, what you're going to come to us for is you're going to come to us for a lot of that suggestion, that activity that then an individual operator, or this is why I'm still confused about the enterprise part, by the way. We can't get into that right now. But my point is, then you're going to talk about here's why that model is going to be interesting. Here's why we're training a model rather than using a fine tune. I don't know what these things are, right? But then you're going to talk as a technical co-founder and say, here's where my expertise comes into play. Here's what I'm building long term. There's someone who I think is coming on the feedback loop, hopefully in October, a friend who I also am an executive coach for, who's building a legal tech business using AI. And the reason he's so compelling is he's a former Facebook exec and a very technical person building a very unique way in which he's using local models in parallel to solve some stuff around legal discovery. I can't say more without giving it away. But his versus his co-founder, his pitch sounds so interesting from the perspective of, oh, you're going to have a bunch of these models running in this way? That doesn't sound like what other people are doing. How are you getting it to do that? What's the cost basis of that? What's it going to cost for you to do if the legal discovery looks like this or that? And so suddenly we're having a very technical conversation about his technical innovation, even though there is a business reason for it. I want you to pitch from that basis. For the sake of time, thank you for sharing. Good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck. Thank you for sharing.
Thanks, everyone.
On the notion of a technical co-founder, I think one of the challenges that I often think about is the person adding to the conversation in the room? And again, I think when they can become business competent, they are. When they become an accessory, they're not. When they showcase accidental founder tension because they're in the room and they really shouldn't be and they're talking over the CEO, definitely not helpful. What's your framework for thinking is, if you're advising a CEO who says, hey, I have a co-founder, technical co-founder, I'm not sure I should bring them to the pitch meeting. When do you say yes? When do you say no?
It's so funny. This was on a LinkedIn thread this week by my friend Ehar at Geek Ventures. Do you explicitly state that I only want to meet with the CEO in the first meeting? And some VCs were very adamant, nope, you do. And my answer is no. I'm very interested. I'm very interested in underwriting the team dynamic. If you make a decision,
but do you need that to be the first meeting?
I don't care. For me, it's my time. This is behavior. So if the founders decide that they haven't worked out their stuff to know who's good at what, that's not noise.
Right. It's already a signal. But that's the point, right? It is something that the founding team has to be very conscious of. But you're being immediately evaluated, even on the choice.
Here's my thing. If you have a co-founder, I believe that anyone should be able to pitch the business to the best of their ability at any time. Know your audience and do your best to be a good human. I'm investing in humans. Humans who don't consider their audience. Soon you'll be
investing in AI.
So that's my thing. I'm investing to date humans around this. So that's my thing. And we can move on to the next one and see where the world takes us.
Let's do it with founder number 2. A round of applause.
Hey,
welcome.
How are you?
All right. I'm going to recommend you use your outside voice so the back of the room can hear you as we go. What's your name?
Thiv Paramsodi.
Thiv, are you ready to tell us in a minute what you're building? Get some feedback.
Ready to go.
You have a minute. What are you building?
Awesome. Hi, I'm Thiv Paramsodi. I want to first start off by saying there's about 9 million Americans each year that are struggling with infertility. But what's surprising is about half of those cases are men. And we don't really hear about that. When you talk to those men, though, they say they have the worst experience because from the testing to the program that they have to get on, and they want something better. So what we offer is at Hera is a at-home solution with a test kit to our treatment program. That's all from the app, where they can actually get the care that they need from home and not have to go into the awkward clinic visit. We launched our MVP and had about 125 patients that went through the program. We got those patients through clinics. So we're using a B2B2C model there, and they loved it, especially the guys, because they didn't want to go into the clinic, and they were able to find out about their fertility and treat it. And our focus right now is to really grow the business.
About a minute. Good job.
Oh, blows by pretty fast.
It does go fast. I have two initial questions I just want to start us off with. There's two players in this space that I'm familiar with, not literal, although one of them literal. There's other startups that have approached this. One I think was called Fellow. And there was another one that I think got some significance. I don't know if it's still around. And then there's the players that play in health, but men's health in particular. I'm thinking of like the Hims and the Romans of the world that feel well positioned. I don't know if they already do, but feel well positioned to tackle this. I love that this is like, by the way, your point about we don't hear about men's infertility. Super interesting. What happened to the startups that are doing this, and are the bigger men's health direct-to-consumer health tech companies playing in this space?
Yeah, let me answer the direct-to-consumer one. So Roe had tried to go into the space, and they've recently backed out. They bought a company called Daddy, and it sounds like they're now just going to keep it for existing patients, because I think it's not meant for a D2C model where they can put it through ads as their main channel. This really needs to be done properly, and that's through the clinics, through the health system.
Interesting. Okay.
And then competitors, there's Fellow, there's Legacy, there's a few others like Bastion. A lot of them are still around and are direct competitors. But what's different about us is we have clinics that refer to us. We're part of the system. Our focus is being part of the insurance side, whereas these
Did you mention you were like clinic oriented from a go-to-market in your pitch?
Yeah.
Okay, I might have missed it.
Yeah.
It didn't resonate for me.
Yeah.
That was a new
It needs to be a way bigger part because it's your differentiator.
Yeah.
Right? Like the fact I came in, and I'm sure what happened is probably like 30 seconds into your pitch, I already pre-baked my questions. But if you had said it so loudly, of like our biggest differentiator compared to prior, when you are entering a space where there are priors, it's okay to bake that into your minute. Usually I wouldn't recommend it. Talking about your competitors or getting too antsy about what's been done in the past is not always a good idea in a minute. But in this case, to say, hey, the differentiator, people have tried this in the past. We have a go-to-market differentiator, and this is also the reason those competitors failed. And then as you go from that minute into getting into Q&A with an investor, you start talking about how the clinic is so important. I assume it's managed care through the app. I assume it's communication with all relevant stakeholders and providers in that food chain. So suddenly you see, we didn't have that much conversation. Now already imagining your product and the user experience of it all. One more question before I stay quiet for a little bit. From the perspective of this being an identifiable problem through a clinic, this being something people pursue, how much are you approaching this from a, hey, we're an easy solution for a physician or a clinic to pass off to? You're going to take this test. This is going to be something that, most people are going to touch. Or is this part of like a family planning conversation where there's also a female fertility question? Because I have not approached this area. I'm not a parent yet myself. But my imagination, or what I've heard, the anecdotes in my head, it's usually like the man and the woman getting tested, and there seems to be like a family conversation. What's your sperm's motility? There seems to be, again, a more family planning. I don't know if that's the right term.
No, that's the right term. Yeah, it's both. And so what we found is that actually 70% of the pilot patients purchased the product were women. So they're initiating the process. So what we do, and our best clinics are actually OBGYNs. So the women's the women's physician, their family doc, is the one that really likes our solution, because now they finally have something that they can offer to that male partner and get them started, because it really impacts that family planning program that they're going to put them on, and the treatments that they're going to have the women doing. If there's something wrong with the guy, you want to know right away as a doc and as a woman. So
I love the delight I'm getting from learning about how your product is used. And in general, you're like informing me a little bit about just the experience of the user. One of the things that pitches can really do, if you can almost arm me with surprise and fun facts, like, not that this is a fun fact, but it's like a fact of like, although it's counterintuitive that women are the 70% of your purchasers. By the way, that also means your market is really interesting. Women are the purchasers of most things in most households. So like, it gives me a go-to-market perspective as to your eventual business model and your ability to acquire users. Super interesting.
Thank you.
I'm intrigued by this business. I'm an disclosure. I'm an investor. Was an investor in my previous job at a startup called Hera Fertility on the.
Sorry, yeah,
Yeah. So
based in Chicago. Yeah,
yeah, Chicago. Jan and Blair. Jan and Blair is awesome. I have so many questions. I want to. Let me just ask: who are you and why are you solving this problem? That was missed. I don't think I got that.
Yeah. So for me, I've been in digital health for my entire career. I love healthcare and health tech specifically. So about a couple of years ago, I was selling B2B SaaS for clinics, and I exited there, but I felt like it just didn't allow me to help patients. And at that point, I found out my previous co-founder was going through his fertility struggles, and I learned a lot and realized he was hiding a lot of it while we were building. And as someone who wants to become a dad eventually, I felt like there has to be a better solution there. So that's what drives me. And then I met my co-founder who ran a clinic for 20 years, a fertility clinic in Missouri, and knows the ins and outs and is also passionate about the space.
In the last minute, you shared the two most compelling bits of the company.
Yeah.
1, this is my story. 2, here's what we know that no one else knows, or at least you'd be surprised by. It's not men who purchase, it's women. Go on. Right? Like, that is the question every VC asks. Like, what do you know that no one else knows? So let me ask you just some reflective stuff. Like, why didn't you put any of that into your minute pitch?
Yeah, I think for me, I feel like your brain starts going into pitch mode of problem, solution, go right away into the details. But especially for something like what I'm doing.
You just went through the 13 slide deal framework, right?
Yeah.
You think you're going to nail that 4 seconds a slide?
No.
So let me ask you again.
Yeah.
Why isn't that into your minute pitch? The minute pitch is a entirely different animal than a platform pitch.
That's fair, because like it actually makes you think. Okay, makes you want to know more and learn more about it when you hear the personal side.
And it's that, but it's something more practical, which is, it's funny. Almost every investor who comes to the feedback loop and gives feedback on this stage says something I don't agree with. I don't agree with this whole like, why are you building it? I could almost never care less about why they're building it. I'll tell you why. To me, founders are a problem-solving breed. And I'll find out along the way why you're solving it, but I mostly want to see your problem-solving brain. How good are you at getting from like demonstrating a problem and talking about the user experience of the solution? But here, I think the part of your pitch that requires it is there's this earned insight. And that does mean maybe telling us why you have that earned insight, why you and your co-founder in combination. There's a better phrased version of this framework that some investors given, but it's like this this thing that no one else yet knows, right? It doesn't have to be a huge secret, right? Knowing that women primarily make this purchase, it's not that it's a secret really, it's that you're using it where no one else has used it before, and that's going to be your little token. So again, I usually disagree with this feedback because I'm like, okay, a founder's a founder's a founder's founder. But in this case, I think way more of your pitch is about what you know about these clinics, about these family planning experiences. And so you do want to give a little bit of that basis.
Got it. And first of all, every founder's, I actually do care a lot. It's a big part of my underwriting. I care about founder.
Everyone else who writes way more checks than I do, by the way, are the ones who say this. So clearly I'm just like mistaken.
I mean, no, it's everyone's different. Some people are pure. And everyone's different. I guess maybe the way you split the hair on just give a little bit around it. Like, look, we started this company. My friend, like my partner,
my friend did this. My co-founder did that.
My co-founder was embarrassed by male infertility, and that was a life-changing moment. So this is where we went from here. That was 3 seconds. Yeah. So like, you just give me permission and invitations to lean into that.
Let's get a little bit deeper into, by the way, because we're both, I think, fascinated by what you're building, potential conflict aside. When you think about the notion of where the product goes and where it's going to meet a true fundamental challenge, I think in every founder's head, they know where they've got a great idea like this. This is clearly not a zero, right? Some amount of people would want your product and you'll be able to deliver it to some amount of people, but then there's some sort of crucible moment, let's call it, or whatever, where it's like, okay, the hard part about this is scaling after this number, or getting regulatory approval because we need to get deeper into the user's journey, or blank, blank, blank. What's the thing that's ahead of you that you know will be the biggest challenge for the startup?
That's a good question. Like right now, or
now or in the visible future. Okay. And I say that because like you might say something that's a year away around, let's say, oh, this is not enough. We want to be able to advise, and that requires approval from some regulatory body. But the point being, it's something where the reason I ask this question is because I almost can't imagine myself some of the things that'll block you beyond failing at your go-to-market or something. Yeah. So I want to know more about where the potential failure points are.
Yeah, no, I think for me, and that's why I'm doing a lot of assessment there, to answer your question, I think it's around the insurance side and having a good strategy to scale it across multiple insurance. Our approach is insurance is important here because it's right. Our competitors do mostly cash pay, and it's not really capturing the full market. And I was born and raised in Canada, and it's a much simpler system. Here, it's like every state with different insurers we're going to have to go after. And so there just has to be a lot of work done on the strategy there. So to answer your question, I would say that. Everything else, I'm very confident on our product and the usage, and our clinician partners who would be selling it. I'm very confident in those. So that's why resources-wise, I would want to commit more on the insurance side to think through how to successfully do that.
For the sake of time, we're going to have to wrap it. Mike, any final thoughts?
I think a lot of it is around just making that compelling story a little bit more clear. I mean, there's problems in this market, right? In terms of especially if you compare against female infertility, I go to questions of is the male infertility problem as big as the female in terms of pain and suffering? And, I'm close to a lot of people who've gone through it. I would want to know more, but I think you've left space and permission for that to occur. So I would just like a little bit more compact aspect of the insight around that to know that this is where you want to spend your time.
Cool. No, appreciate
Thanks
that.
for sharing.
Thank you.
Good luck.
I'm really passionate about this space. It's something that has affected loved ones around my circle. I haven't really thought about the male aspect of it. And I think I've seen a deal like this before, but I've never really had it literally in front of my face like this. So
when I've seen other startups, kind of just do the at-home test portion.
Yeah.
And that's why as soon as he gave an answer around that, the clarity allowed me to go oh, this is different from what I've heard on those solutions. And those seem, again, kind of like the Roman style. They're trying to be dismissive. Health tech a lot in the past decade, I would say, has been a dismissive version of itself, as in it's not entrepreneurs who are coming from the practice trying to build really care and outcomes based solutions. It's a lot of entrepreneurs who know there's a lot of money, there's a lot of easy legacy replacement. And I'm glad that I think in 2023, it finally switched over a little bit. We do something called Founders Friday, where every Friday I interview a founder here in the office for agency. And a lot of them, for some reason, wind up being health tech founders who are in the early stage. And I love the ones that either they're an MD, their co-founder's an MD, they've experienced the problem, or their family's experienced the problem, and they're not approaching it from a, how do I get you an at-home kit and charge you for it, and have an app on your phone to try to, kind of engage you constantly for some subscription. Instead, they're saying, actually, the care experience should be different. The provider can actually be included. Insurance is important. This stuff is hairy, and it's going to take us a lot of effort to solve the right way. By the way, if we do, the difference not only economically for us as a startup, but also for all those individuals from an outcomes perspective could be dramatic.
Yeah. And what I heard too, it's if you can show diversity in your pitch, I think it makes it really strong. So one, a little bit about your founder story. Two, another part of that would be the
go-to-market.
The go-to-market. But then, but if you can get to the touchy-feely for the trifecta or of this poo-poo platter, right? Here's what we learned, and I gleaned this from is what we've learned about the male market. It's not even about the meds. We could talk about the medicine and we have all the metrics, but it's really about shame. Our product is about shame. And it's really fascinating and powerful when you build a product with this insight. And a reason to believe is that it's actually the wives that are actually the majority of first users or instigating users in it. And it's really cool to build a product. And it's oh, wow, okay, now I have to you have a compelling story. These unit economics make sense. And you have a very interesting emotional insight. All right, I'll take another meeting. Give yourself another way to win in the pitch. Maybe that is I'm always trying to think about what my theme for tonight is for you.
We've got a lot more pitches to go.
Oh, goodness. Here we go.
With that in mind, shall we welcome Founder 3 to the stage?
Let's do it.
With a round of applause. Hello, hello.
Hey.
What's your name?
Yumi.
Yumi, you're going to have a minute to tell us what you're building, then get some feedback. Are you ready?
Yes.
What are you building?
So we're building a AI-powered enterprise knowledge management software to help large enterprise manage their internal knowledge and then enhance their operational efficiency. Our team, we have 3 combined IPO, 2 AI patents, and then the research, the product is built on research backed by Ivy League researchers. Then we also have, as an inbound business, we have more than thousands of signups and daily signups, and we have secured more than 10 Fortune 500 companies with a seed level revenue, and we raised our pre-seed in 2022. So right now we are raising.
Under a minute. Good job.
What's the name of your company?
Lead, LEAD.
I want to give some feedback. I don't think the credentials in your pitch matter. I'll tell you why. It's not just because of the first reason that I think they don't matter. I don't really care about 2 patents that might not be relevant. I don't know if you mentioned degrees. I don't know what else you mentioned, but you had this moment where it was a sentence of credentials, and I'm not saying they're not worthy. But I don't personally care about them because founders, whether or not they have credentials, will win or not. But the real reason I would recommend to remove them from your pitch is they're not the reason you will win or lose. I'm going to imagine that your business, knowledge management platform, using AI, doing a lot for the enterprise, doing a lot of organization, blah, blah, blah. I'm imagining a lot of that, whether you win or lose, will depend on your ability to understand deeply the enterprise integration workflow and onboarding your customers, competing with legacy players, understanding different use cases in the enterprise where the knowledge management is going to come from different systems and look different, dealing with unstructured data. In other words, it's not these credentials, which came from more of a intellectually interesting space, that will be the reason you win. It'll be all of these other elements. So if your patents would give me a signal that, hey, your patent in video game design is going to allow you to build a mobile app for children, great. But you see how those aren't as connected. At least you haven't connected them so far. So they feel like credentials that don't necessarily support what's going to be hard about your business.
The patents actually related to our business.
Okay, tell me more.
So our software, we use a network analysis. So one of the patents is related to that. And we also have a generative AI to replace management consulting. And then that patent is also like generative AI use similar technology.
Are these patents, how do I ask this question politely?
Don't look at me, dude.
I'm just thinking. You're in the crosshairs.
Yeah, but
you
dug yourself a hole. I'm gonna do
let me ask this question this way. I'm gonna imagine that if you had a generative AI patent that was useful for this company, it'd be useful for any company. Like a generative AI patent that matters a lot versus patents generally being like a course of business. Are these patents around methodologies that are truly novel?
So,
or is it for like the use case of using generative AI to create a pseudo management consultant?
So usually in pre-C and C stage, it's really about who are the founding team, right? And then actually a lot of venture capital and investor, they don't really care about what you are building or even have revenue. It's about who you are building, like who you are, like what are credential you are, right? So if everybody, I pitch a lot of investors, everybody was like, oh, tell me your founding story. Tell me who are you guys? I don't care about you have revenue today. Maybe you won't have revenue tomorrow if your team's not good enough.
So I'll interpret that feedback that they might be giving you differently. And I think often this happens in job search as well, a lot where I live on a day-to-day basis with agency. People hear a source, an investor, an employer say something, and the truth is the investor or employer doesn't really know what they're talking about or how they even interpret things. That person's feedback is really, they're saying, hey, you're too early to have real evidence, so feel free to tell me a story instead. And you're interpreting that as, I don't care about what you're building, tell me only about you. What they're really saying is you're so early, weave together more of a narrative as to what you would ask, which is why you now, why you in this format. And again, I go back to the credential has to support what's going to be hard about your business. And so, I don't want to get into the weeds of the patent, and we could talk for a long time about it, but I would say don't overlearn from that feedback. I don't think they know exactly what they mean when they say it that way.
Yeah, so I didn't I mean, didn't really say about the
Oh, by the way,
education.
Yeah.
I was more talk about that we are not first time founders. That's why I mentioned the 3 combined IPO. And
Were you the CEO of any of those companies?
I was one of the founders.
Of an IPO company?
Yeah.
You were one of the founders of an IPO?
Yeah.
So what company is that?
Meitu Technology. I was the founder for Japan.
So I would say as part of the pitch, not when I heard we've been part of 3 IPOs, I heard you were employee number 727 at 3 IPOs and another employee was
That's not what I heard.
employee 9. But I would say I was the founder of, what was the name again?
Meitu. So I was
Meitu, which eventually, you don't have to be part of the IPO, so I know what you're about to say is like caveat, but which eventually went on to IPO. Yeah. And that provides me a sense of your role in that.
true, but I only have 1 minute to pitch.
Fair
Well,
enough.
maybe
Go ahead.
this is a good open because I was fine with what you said. You know, it made sense to me. I want to know more. You finished with 43 seconds. Say more. Like, well, you finished with 40. What else would you want to say? Like questions I have, like, you know, so one, like, how, again, you've heard, how much revenue you have, like seed stage revenue, like,
Well, let's get to some of it.
payroll. Like,
I want to
like,
get to it.
Those
so,
are the
so how much
questions
money is the business making?
So the thing is that right now we're in live, right? I usually don't discuss.
You said seed level.
Yeah, seed level.
Give a range.
Well, like anywhere from like 200K to like 500,000.
Okay. And then it's knowledge management. I assume you're still early, so it's not all of knowledge management today. These early customers who are paying you, what's their particular stage and size, and what sort of knowledge are they managing?
Yeah, so knowledge is not information. It's more about who knows what, right? So basically, the philosophy is like each employee is a knowledge node, and then based on their network size, density, centrality, they have different information, and then that information connect into a knowledge network, and it's dynamic because people will leave, people will join, people, really.
And what's the difference between you and a legacy solution?
There's no legacy solution right now. For example, let's say people in sales, they are not able to access to Jira. Do you know like who in your company, which engineers building, you know what?
there are.
Wait, sorry, I
some-
didn't understand the point. Could you say that again?
I get it.
Yeah, so then basically our software is this infrastructure in a company for you to identify where are the subject matter expertise located. This can be something like if you want to build an enterprise AI, you want to know who can update my information so I can have the accuracy piece.
There are competitors in the space, like, you know, Saks is building this, or Grok. There's a lot of people doing this. So I think, I mean, I get it. So, you know, who's an expert in this particular area, this line of code, like, and it's a dynamic, living, breathing
Sorry,
thing.
those are 2 different things. I want to clarify that I understand this. Is it
Sure.
an expert in, and you can answer from a knowledge management, you can tell me from your solution, an expert in a line of code that exists in my business, or an expert who knows something about fertility because they used to work at a fertility company?
My assumption, you can tell me, it's number 2. It's knowing what carbon-based life form may know this thing about this very specific thing that I need to get my project done.
But about
Correct.
something that happened inside the company or outside the company?
Inside the company.
So I want to meet the product manager who released this feature.
It's more specific. For example, I wanted to know who in our companies are handling enterprise sales with like.
Got it. And what do they do today? You know, either there's a legacy solution or a competitor, but in your mind, when you're going to your existing customers who you have today, what are they doing today versus what they're doing?
I'm not talking about individual level. I'm talking about the whole company level.
What is a company doing to solve this problem?
They hire management consulting companies, and they usually pay $2 million down
The
payment.
reason I ask this question is I think a before and after can be really helpful.
Can I try? Because
Yeah, sure.
I think I understand this, right?
Okay.
I used to work for a couple of very large financial institutions, right? Like, who knows the most about this? Or let's say, hey, we're trying to do this in the Northeast. We've tried these particular programs. Who's got ideas or solutions of trying to do this in maybe not credit, but we tried a similar promotion in mortgage, right? And then, you know, right now the option is basically to go through the corporate directory, find the business line, find someone, talk to them, email them, hope they find you find the right person, or that they're still there, and that knowledge is still living. Right now, I could theoretically just get that through, you know, a quick query or Copilot, or moreover, it could be co-piloted. Like, hey, it looks like you're in a requirements doc for a new credit card product. Have you looked at these other things that are happening? I'm in business. Here's what's happening in consumer. Like, and just to be able to give me best practices based on the knowledge unlocks. Is that the type of products you're, or am I going too far off the rails?
That's the business intelligence part we are building. Yes.
Yeah. And so
I'll be frank, both of you have made me think this is not useful yet.
Well,
let me put it this way. I want to hear something visceral, right? So for example, this whole like someone wants the Northeast or someone knows something about a line of code is not specific enough. What I want to hear is something like, today, if you work at did you know that today, if you work at Coca-Cola, the way that a marketing campaign has to happen, it has to take about 1.5 years to launch. The reason it has to take 1.5 years to launch is not because it takes 1.5 years to come up with the marketing material. You have to go to so many stakeholders to understand local marketing regulations. You have to understand sweepstakes. You have to understand your email service provider. You have to understand what happens in the mobile application. You have to understand this. By the way, I'm making this up. I have no idea if this is what this is. But there's so many stakeholders involved that if you work at a company like Coca-Cola, you're talking to 72 teams and 192 stakeholders, and you're trying to gather information before you can even execute a campaign. And that's really difficult in today's world where we don't sign our work, we don't sign the expertise we have inside of a company. And what Lead does is, as anyone does work in the world, we're using a combination of AI and automation to essentially tag it, understand it. It's like a record of what everyone did, why they did it.
Yeah. I have a version of that as well.
Okay. Can I give you my, so for me, I actually understand this. My questions are, one, just use your time, right? Second, for those who invest in the space, give us something more who are investors in AI, like to understand, like, look, here's the vertical integration about where, and
who in the
relevance.
crowd understands this product? So I don't care, Mike, just to be frank.
Let me finish because
it doesn't matter though, right? So like, let me just be clear. You have to be able to tell me what you're building.
But I understand it. So let me finish on this. I understand this.
But if you can only sell to people who understand it, your investor crowd gets real skinny.
Maybe not. They're like, the third thing is, and this could be genericized. If you don't, you're raising a round. If you don't want to share numbers, what people can talk about stages, understand like 2 million, 3 million gets from this graduation. Give me something about like, here's what we did with our pre-seed round and what we learned. And here's the thesis for our seed round. We're raising this amount of capital to do X, Y, and Z because we learned and did A, B, and C in the previous round. Stick the landing on that because that shows the lineage of thought of that capital is going to be deployed efficiently. So maybe we may disagree at the meat of it. Maybe that. But
only one person raised their hand in this very large crowd,
Yeah,
and so I don't think it's a disagreement. It's a fact. You have to be able to demonstrate your product a little bit more clearly. And by the way, I'm sure it's a compelling product. This is not like startup feedback, but I think you need to be able to tell somebody who doesn't live in this, hasn't experienced it. I haven't worked at a big company. So like, even for me though, I might be very compelled by your solution. I tell this to people all the time. If you can, you said empathy earlier in the last pitch. Give me the ability to have empathy for your end user. Give me the ability to have empathy for the people who I don't yet understand. And when you do, I'm then going to follow you into your solution a little bit more clearly. I'm going to very closely listen when you tell me about this Coca-Cola thing I made up. Then I'm going to go, oh yeah, that sounds like a huge problem. And if you do have a way to solve that, I'm very interested because you've demonstrated the huge problem exists and is something I can touch and feel. But for the sake of time, unfortunately, I have to stop here. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you too.
Absolutely.
Good luck.
Thank you. Every founder needs to be able to start from product, I think. Every founder has to be able to start from product because if you can't, at least... I couldn't even reject that pitch if I heard it. Right? That's the challenge. Or at least not for
Do you ever do pre-product startups? Well, I don't actually. Yeah. So, okay, then let me ask you, every founder has to start from product, but I invest in resolve that paradox for me.
Oh, sorry. Product or problem. I couldn't even really understand. For example, I still don't know if the Coca-Cola thing I made up is in that wheelhouse of product that problem and product that she's solving. And so I think there's this notion of, if you're being, and you and I have actually talked about this before, if you're being rejected by an investor because they've kind of given up on your pitch, it's almost like too incomprehensible and they're lazy and they just like give up on you. That's unfortunate because that means essentially you didn't actually even get your at bat. They just decided, okay, I don't want to put in the effort to understand this better. And so I think having enough of an ability to describe problem and product such that I can decide that I care or decide that I don't care. That's the bar, I think.
That's fair. This pitch started with credentials and who we are. And I thought they were very valid credentials. I heard her as the, 3 exits and IPOs and That's 3 more than I have. So I mean, I'm fine with that.
So far, Mike. Yet. Growth mindset.
No, as an operator, this is the phase I want to be. So
Right.
for me, like that I agree with. Like, you know, there needs to be some notion of the problem. I did work on assumption that if they have Fortune 500 clients and
C-level revenue.
X paying, even if they're de minimis revenue. Like, look, I worked at Bank of America to get a PO through for it's like, it is
Send an invoice and they'll pay you.
No, it is an incredible, difficult knothole
it's
to get
difficult.
through.
Right.
So
right.
I'm actually okay with that. Like that tells me that there's real pool, because you to suffer through procurement at like that is brutal.
That
It's
by
almost,
itself is a founder
so
journey.
no, and I mean that. So
Yeah.
I'm actually okay with it from a traction basis. I just need to know a little bit more about, like, you know, tell me a little bit more about the AI aspect of it at the application layer, so I can get intelligent about it. Tell me about the novel use case, vertical integration. Tell me about that specific LMs. Like, that's what I understand a little bit. And then if you're going to pitch a new round, follow since and so. Since we raised this and did this, so we're raising that to do . If you don't want to share your revenue, you know, I get it. I mean, sort of, but not really. You know, I'm going to find all this in diligence anyways, if you want me as an investor. If you're going to be raising a round, I guess maybe feedback is, let's be serious about raising a round. And these are the things you should come prepared with to talk to an investor.
Since and so. It's a good framework. I like it.